Like a baller. That's what they call it, a baller. I think we discussed that last time. Cool. All right, we're live. Are we live on all platforms? That's okay. You can keep talking even though we're live. It doesn't matter to me. Hey guys. Yeah, we're live on the internet. And this is big. Listen, New Yorkers do not care. This is your, get up here. Do you want to do the show? No, I'm just messing with you. Sorry guys, we went live really quickly. We usually have an opening act, which is very funny. We didn't have that this time. No. So, yeah, we did have an opening act. So if you guys cut that on my thing. But anyways, I am Daniel Norton. Welcome on Adorama's Facebook and YouTube. We are streaming. This is Dave Maruska. Sets over there on the mighty mixer. And we got Brian rocking it out as our model today. Yeah. What are we doing? I got everybody's name right, so that's always good. All right, so I'm a little tired. Yeah. You may have noticed, so I'm gonna drink coffee a lot. No, today we're gonna talk about hard and soft light. I was telling Seth earlier in the pre-show that I kind of did these backwards. I think when I originally was gonna do this, I was gonna do this first and then do men versus women after, because it kind of plays into it. But so if you guys haven't seen that one or you weren't here last week, you can go back and watch that video when we're done. But we've done this a bunch of different ways in the past, and I think what I'm going to do for consistency is I'm going to try to use, except for this very first shot, I'm going to basically use softboxes for mostly everything. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because the main thing that separates the light between being hard and soft is its size, right, Cliff?
Yes.
That's right. So its size relative to the subject. So if your subject is really tiny, your light doesn't have to be that big to still be soft, right? If your subject is large, then you need a bigger light. So it's all relative. If you think about it like this, the sun, right, is big, they say. That's what scientists say. I mean, they also say the Earth is round. I'm not sure. Anyways, and you can block it with your hand, right? Because it's small relative to you because you're so far away. We're going to play with that a bit here with our largest size softbox. We're going to move it back and forth, and I'll show you how it affects the light. Now, let me just do some definition stuff to start with because I feel like it. See, I picked that up and didn't even drink it. So, I don't know why. So, hard and soft refers to shadow. It's a shadow transition. That's hard soft. So basically a hard light has a very abrupt, sudden, or hard transition from neutral to shadow, thus a hard line. A soft light has a more gentle transition. So that's basically what we're talking about here. You can have hard light that's really pretty. You can have hard light that's not pretty. It really depends on what you want to use it for. Hard light's great for bringing out things like texture, because texture is essentially shadow. Right? That's why if somebody comes to you to be photographed and they have a pimple on their face, no matter how much makeup they put on them, they can take the color away, but if you hit them with a hard light, you're always going to see the bump from the pimple because that's a shadow. That's when you'd want to use soft light because then the shadow becomes more subtle. So that's kind of when, how we're going to use it in a practical manner. We're going to be a little more technical, I think, today, but we'll see. We never know how things are going to go. So I've got two lights set up. We have Pro Photo lights today. As always, by the way, there's a deal, and I'll mention it now, otherwise I always forget. Apparently, there's a deal on the B1X. Not apparently, there is. If you get a B1X, you get a free controller. So it's like a $400 value, whatever, so go ahead and order that. If you are online and you want to order it, just call in or whatever. If you're here, you can obviously get it in the store. It's for, I think, this week. I'm not 100% sure. I already have one, so. All right, anyways. And apparently you can have any controller you want, because I asked. Any Pro Photo controller, obviously. So right now we've got a B1X, which is the light that we're talking about. Does it have a battery in it? Yes, it does, because Dave's good. And we've just got it sitting in front of the softbox to kind of match the area. So I'm going to basically do what I always do. Take over the world. What's the pinky in the brain, right? Forget it. Okay, so we want to use flash. I want to demonstrate what flash does, which means that we need to eliminate the light in the space, right? So this is going to be drilled into your head every single time you ever watch me do anything because this should be the most natural thing as a photographer. I want to get rid of the light. How do I do it? I set my shutter speed as the maximum synchronization speed of my camera, which in this case, I have a Canon 1DX Mark II. It's 250th of a second, so 250. That's set, no matter what. I set that before I left my studio. I actually did do that. ISO, 100. That's the lowest one within the normal range of ISOs for my camera. What is on your camera? I don't know. You can look up in the book. Some are 200, but most cameras are 100. The old phase one back is like 25. I actually set that too. Look at that. So the third number, right, is your aperture. That's part of your exposure triangle. If you want to know all about that, watch Mark Wallace videos. He does great videos about exposure triangles. Essentially, we need to, no matter how much light you have, those three things, your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO are going to create the correct exposure. Our correct exposure in this case is black. We don't want anything. We want it underexposed. So we can use the meter in our camera to look at the little dial and move it to a place where it's very underexposed. Once we're there, then we should get essentially a black frame if we're not using flash. So that's what we did. I don't have a handheld light meter today. I have this turned off. We'll take a picture. Maybe. I think I have the autofocus on. Dave will take a picture. So Dave's going to shoot one. This is important. And we should get a black frame. So we're at 5.6. One final test that I usually do is I go into here. I'm in Capture One, by the way. If you guys don't tether, this is a great software. There is a 30-day free trial. I recommend you grab it. Or you can buy it from Adorama as well, I guess. Okay, so exposure. I'm just going to drag this guy over until I start to see Brian. There he is. Hey, Brian. There he is. 3.6 stops underexposed. That's pretty good. I like to be at least 2 stops. I'm going to leave it there. I like being at 5.6 for this kind of stuff. If for some reason I'd like to be at f4, then I probably could go there because I have enough space. I want to be at least 2 stops underexposed. That's kind of my. Oh, if you may have noticed, the luxurious new, I feel like Vanna White, Tether Table. It's actually bigger than mine. Yeah. Tether Tools hooked us up with a new table, thank you, with a cup holder. So these are great. People ask me about this table all the time after, so I'm just going to tell you, Tether Tools, it's called the Aero, I think, table. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it seems like whenever people are buying, it's not, a Tether Table is not the shiny fancy thing like a lens. It's more like a memory card, right? Like you're kind of like, oh, I got to buy it. But once you have this thing, like mine that I have is like 6, 7 years old. I mean, you buy it once, you know? So if you tether a lot, it's worth getting a table, whatever. I didn't need a new pad though. In any case, I am tethered in my MacBook here. We have the Canon 1DX Mark II. We got the 24-70, and I've got a ProPhoto controller on top. Now, ProPhoto has something in it called TTL, right? There's all kinds of different TTLs. This one is Air TTL. There's Canon TTL, Nikon TTL, whatever. Basically, what that means is there's a little guy that comes running out of the meter, and he checks the exposure every single time. So we're going to automatically be able to create a flash exposure. The camera is set on manual. I want to make that clear because sometimes that's confusing to people. My camera is on manual. I'm not changing that. The flash is going to give me the proper exposure, theoretically, using TTL. Now, we're going to only turn on the one head, which is B, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to turn off A, and I'm going to turn off C because, you know, why not? So we're only getting B, and we're in TTL. Theoretically, when we make a photo now, we should get the proper exposure. If it's not the proper exposure, don't freak out. It's not the end of the world. We just make adjustments, and we'll talk about that when that happens. Because inevitably, it will happen. No, it's not bad. All right, so whatever. I'm not trying to make a great picture. I'm just kind of showing an exposure here. Here's Brian. Brian looks sad. He hasn't had any pizza. Right? This is a hard light, right? Clearly defined shadow. Oh, we did coordinate color-wise. Also, apparently, I'm going through puberty. I have my voice changing. So we can clearly see this hard light is causing this abrupt shadow transition, right? Also, you can notice texture under his eyes. We see his little beard here. He's got a little growth coming in. Maybe he hasn't shaved today or this week. I don't know, depending on him. Great for things like clothing. He's wearing a sweater. We want to show that, right? Not necessarily ideal for, let's say, a beautiful shot of somebody that's maybe has imperfect skin. Now, a softer light source, we could switch to this guy, which is a ProPhoto D2. There is no special sale on that light, but still a great light. This is in a large softbox. This is actually it's in a medium softbox, which is a 3-foot by 4-foot Shimura, shallow, and we'll take a shot with that one. Again, we just switched the system, and we'll see the difference. Okay, let's look at our shadow. Okay, so we see, right? Now, there is something else going on here, too, which I guess in terms of speaking about this, I have to kind of cross this line and talk about it. Specular versus diffuse. And I'm going to talk about this also because people will make the statement all the time, and I see 1,000 videos out there where people say this, if I want to make my light softer, I'm going to put some diffusion on it. If you ever say that in front of me, Seth is going to spank you. Wow, backhand. Not me, because I'm very gentle. Diffusion does not make your light soft. Diffusion makes your light Diffused, right. Diffusion versus specular has to do with your highlights, right? Your highlights are going to pop and glow with a specular light source. This has to do with the direction of light, the kind of the nature of what you put in front of it. Now, a softbox has diffusion, right? Which is making the light bigger, right? Because bigger controls hard soft. So we also diffuse the light, which as you notice, his highlights are really kind of under control now. And we can see that not only is the shadow transition really kind of beautiful, but also like his overall skin tone is very smoothed out. That's at least partially because of the diffusion, right? So diffusion doesn't necessarily make your light soft, although it can if the diffusion is bigger than the initial source. And that's it.
Also the shadow on the background?
And yeah, the shadow on the background is going to be a little different. We can definitely see that. Here's the shadow in this one. Here's the shadow in this one, right? That's because the hard light source is going to have a more dramatic shadow because of. Well, yeah, and the catch light will be different because of the different shape of the modifier for those who count those things. If you want a round catch light, then you could just use an umbrella or an octagon, such as that. Okay, simple enough. Does that make sense? Okay, here's another thing, because we're going to start talking about size now. We just put the lights in the same spot so you guys can get a pretty even thing, but you can kind of see too that coverage, right? This is actually hotter here, and we can see the fall off. It's a bit darker down by here. You see where this is almost completely even across his entire body. That's because our light source has more coverage, right? So another reason to use a large light source is coverage, right? If I get my large light, it's going to wrap around. The person's going to cover more head to toe. This is the reason why using large light sources is very useful, whereas small ones are going to be more particular. If you want a very kind of controlled situation, you can use a lot of small lights and light up different parts of him separately, which is one great way to shoot, especially very precise things like beauty, where you use a lot of small lights. But a large light source gives you that advantage of just kind of being even, right, and being nice and being there. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so we're going to start with the soft light because that's how I like to work. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm not going to put it in front of the camera. Okay, cool. Now, got a couple things going on here. Number one, this light is pretty far away from Brian, right? Which, if you've ever been to anything that I do, I always say, generally speaking, you want to put your light as close as possible to the person. That's how you're maximizing your light. You're maximizing your power. You're making it larger overall, because generally we're wanting soft light here, right? It's going to be larger when it's closer to him because it's all relative to the subject, right? So we can move our light in closer or we can move him. But let's move the light in closer. We're not going to be overly concerned today with the shadow on the background. So for the person that's going to be obsessed with that, I'm sorry. We're just going to, we're going to leave it there because it helps. It's very telling into the soft versus hard light. So that's why we're leaving it back there. We're not going to try too much to avoid it. Yeah, so that's pretty much where you put it, close, right? One trick to doing light, if you don't know where to put it, move it in until it's in your shot and then back it up, right? Close is almost always better. And again, we're in TTL. We can just make another exposure and see basically what we're getting now. You'll see how the light is going to rep. Now what's interesting is, and I'm going to talk about this next thing, is what they call fall off. Not Fallout. Was that a video game? Yes. I've played video games before. Right? You played any video games? A couple of them? Yeah, not really. Pac-Man. I used to like Dig Dug. What's that? TTL question, yes.
It makes their models blink.
Ah. Your model is blinking because of the TTL. Really? Well, because of the pre-flash. Yeah, that happens. What I would do in that case, if the person isn't moving, so the way TTL works, and you guys probably can't see it, is it sends out what's called a pre-flash. So right before you actually take the picture, that little guy runs out with a light meter and he checks it and he looks, he runs back and he tells the camera, well, he tells the light, what to set the settings, right? The light's always changing, right? Some people are sensitive to that and will actually start to blink because of it. If that's the case, you're probably going to want to, what I generally do is I just have them close their eyes or whatever. I get the proper exposure with the TTL, and then I just switch to manual. Easy as that. If you're using Nikons, they've got the SU800 will oftentimes solve that problem because it has like a little infrared shield on it, so you can't really see the pre-flash. So that's an advantage there if you're doing it. You're not going to get that with ProPhoto. Although this is radio, so it's usually not as obvious because it's not flashing from the camera. So yeah, I would just switch to manual, I mean, if that's the case. So my ISO is 100, my f-stop is 5.6. That's pretty much where I like to be at. It gives the, gets rid of all the light in the room, gives us enough depth of field. Because here's the thing, right? Like I have this lens and it's like a 2.8 lens, right? So I can shoot really shallow, but then his whole head's not going to be in focus. And what do I care about the background? The background is plain gray. I don't care if it's in focus or not. Did we take a shot? I think we did. Dave's so fast. So here we are with the new shot. We can see the light is nice and close, right? And soft, right? Bigger catch light in the eye. Actually, you can notice that it's even more, and this is where like, now we're like really getting particular here because this is what this demo is about. It's even softer because we can see, look at the transition between here, his beautiful cheekbones, and here, right? More of a darker, sudden transition on the harder light being smaller, harder light being the ones further away. You can notice it here. You also might notice he's a little happier in the right picture. The softer the light, the happier the person is. It just generally works that way. I'm not sure why. You know, I mean, he's not super happy, but he's getting there. Now, what I will say is this. This is actually another thing that is often mistakenly asked or seen. People will look at that and say, Daniel, that light's not hard, not soft. There's a whole bunch of shadows. Well, yeah, of course, because shadow is what creates shape, right? Position of your light is how you're going to develop where the shadows are going to go. If you put the light next to somebody, there's going to be a shadow, right? These are subtle transitions to the shadow, detail in the shadow. That's what's making it a soft light. What you're seeing here is what they call fall off, right? The light, right? Inverse square law. Nobody knows what that means, but you all just say it all the time. Basically, light falls off, right? So the light's closer to that side of his face, so the other side will be in shadow. If I were to start to move my light further and further and further away, eventually it would be more even across his face because that distance proportionately would be less. But the light would still be harder. It wouldn't be softer because it's even. It's just you're going to have hard shadows and less of them. If you just don't like shadows, but you want a soft light, you just need to position your light source so the shadows are not where you don't want them. So let's say in the middle or something. You can move it around. We want shadows because we're talking about those today. So, plus, Brian specifically told me, he was like, man, I need some shadows. So I was like, I can do that. What you can do, though, whether you're using hard light or soft light, and if you wanted it a little more even, is you could fill in the shadows. We could do that with a light. We could do that with a reflector. It's funny, we do this every week, and every week we forget to take the reflector out. Someday we'll actually have the reflector. It'll be amazing. Nah. No, that's not a reflector. The Brooklyn ones.
You want me to get my reflector?
Yeah, we need the Brooklyn reflectors.
Oh, the silver one?
There it is. Okay.
My super edition now?
So, this is a reflector. Seth makes these, in, well, actually made them here in Manhattan. It's been an upgrade.
Wow.
So, white is going to give us bounce back. This is now, right? Well, at this distance, it's relatively large, right, compared to him. So this is going to be soft bounce back. All you got to do is put it next to him. You can look forward still. Forward to Dave, yeah. He likes you. Maybe he doesn't, I don't really know. Yeah, and he's even happier. And now we've still got the same soft light, but now we have the shadows filled in a bit, right? So now it's looking a little bit, he's looking a little more boyish. You know, so we've got that going on. So that's how you do that. You can do it also if the light was hard. Same thing, which we will do when we get to the hard light source. Now, we could use the silver side if we want to be hardcore. This is going to be more specular, right? We can see, right? See that? I like to do that. Okay. When LED companies, when they first started coming out with LEDs and they were all terrible, now they've got some decent ones, they'd be like, this is so bright, and put it right in your face. That's what I like to do with reflectors. All right, anyways, so we'll do this. This will be a little more punchy. Should fill in a bit more. We're still using soft light. It's not going to be like crazy. But when we use the silver reflector, remember how this looks. When we use the silver reflector with the hard light later, you'll see the difference. Right, so now we've got a little bit more of a specular pop to the light. Again, it's still large, so it's still soft, but you see the specularity of it, right? You see that? Still soft, but now specular. You see the difference? It's not just more light, it's also snappier, right? Silver reflector, that's why you use silver. Never use gold. No, I'm just kidding. You can use gold if you want. You'll regret it later, but you can do it. Now, the reason why I don't often use gold reflectors, because I get the question a lot too, is because the reflector is only reflecting where you're reflecting. How many times can I say reflecting in one sentence, right? So basically, if I'm going to reflect right here with the gold reflector, I only hit him in the face, the rest of his body is not going to be warm, so it's going to look weird. So if you're using a gold reflector, be wary of that. Otherwise, yep.
Is there a way to reduce the softbox reflection in the eye if the box is so close?
Is there a way to reduce the softbox reflection in their eye? They could turn away from it, I suppose, or change the angle of it. But most people like a reflection in the eye. It's called a catchlight. If you don't like that, what's that? Yeah, you can move his eyeball so it's on the white. You can move his whole face. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. I personally like a catchlight. Most people do. But if you like dead eyes, then, you know, then that's all about position. Because remember, your eye is basically like a mirror, but it's like a round mirror. It's the mirror to your soul, right? So if you ever look at a mirror, how things bounce. I get the same question about glasses, right? You just got to put the light in the right spot so that the light bounces, light travels in a straight line, so it bounces and goes away. So it's that simple. I like catch light, and it's my show, so I'm leaving it. All right, so yes.
So how does power factor into the hard and soft equation?
How does power factor in? It doesn't.
Right.
Okay, so that's a good question. What?
Just the highlights. It would just blow out the highlights.
No, has nothing to do. No, nothing. So he's asking about highlights. That's your specularity.
Right.
If you have a very specular light and it's blowing out the highlights and you just dial the power down, it'll just be underexposed with your highlights correctly exposed, which is not what you want. What you want to do is if your light is specular, you want to add diffusion, which will then help even out the highlights, right? Power is, now, okay, that being said though, a large light source is going to need more power by its nature. So as long as you have enough power, it's never an issue, right? As soon as you don't have power. So if I only had, you know, I don't know, one small speed light, I might not be able to fill this whole softbox and get the power that I'm getting. I probably could though from this distance, but you know, if you're trying to do, but if I have a Profoto, I can put this thing, you know, wherever I want. Well, not anywhere, but pretty much anywhere. And we'll do it. So yeah, power only comes into when you're trying to fill your box with light, okay? So yeah, don't think about that. Exposure is, so I'm gonna Dean Collins you guys for a second. Does anybody know who Dean Collins is? Oh, we have full power? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I never know what power we're at really, because it doesn't really, 4.6, we're like, yeah, we're way below full power. So Dean Collins was like the granddaddy of this stuff. Like if you go back and look at his VHS tapes, which I used to watch when I was like 10, he was teaching photography, and he would talk about the specular and diffused, and he has this little like bowling ball that he shows. But basically, there's what I call the neutral. I think you call it the diffused highlight. But basically, that's your exposure, right? So when I'm shooting somebody's face, like what I care about is the skin tone, right? This. Everything else, the highlight, right? The shadow is all based off of that. And then you use different sources and different positions to change those things. But your correct exposure is always that the neutral should be correct. So if I'm photographing somebody, the part of my shot that is the neutral should be the part that is correctly exposed. If I have a blown out highlight on his forehead, but the rest of it's good, then I still have a good exposure. I just have very specular light. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It really depends on what you're doing. If I'm shooting an athlete, I might want heavy specular highlights. I might even lose definition. That might be part of the look I'm going for, you know? Or I might want deep, dark shadows in somebody. And that's totally fine. That's why we have different light sources. That's why we have different techniques of doing it. Not every shot should be this. If you're shooting this level, like this guy right here, this last shot, this is fine, right? It's a nice picture, but it's kind of boring. I mean, right? It's just, this is what you need to master when you're learning lighting, and then you should never shoot this again. Like this is terrible. It's just like a basic boring shot. Like nobody cares about this, right? It's a passport photo. But we're just, you know, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, maybe you care about it. No, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about this, right? This is nothing. I mean, this should be your baseline, right? When we get into emotion and we're creating character, then we start dealing with highlight and shadow. This is just making it even, right? And that's not to say that, like if I see lots of pictures and they're all blown out and shadows and stuff and nobody can ever make a correct exposure, that's wrong too. Like you want to be able to get this shot. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but yeah, this is not your goal in the end. In fact, sometimes In fact, let's just bring another light in because now I'm going off course already because that's just what happens with me. Let's do, yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. So let's say we take this light, which Dave already put over here. See, he's good like that. I put it over here. And let's say we aim it at him. Now this is going to get all over the background. Actually, let me put the softbox on it. The little baby softbox, maybe? Unless you want to just put it in a position where it won't go in the bathroom or background.
I can make that happen.
All right, do it. Dave's going to do it. So we're going to get this in and we're going to do like a hair light. But we're going to do it not the way Dave would normally do it, which is going to be perfect. We're going to overexpose it just to kind of show like that you can have a specular, we'll make it a little bright. And we'll put it in the right spot, but we'll make it brighter than normal. So the great thing about mastering this kind of stuff, like the simple shots, is if you can get yourself to the position where you can make like a hair light or a separation light, where when somebody's looking at the photo, they don't even notice really that it's there. And then they're like, what? And then you turn it off and they go, oh. Like that's the goal for that, right? But we're gonna go over the top. We're gonna go more specular, because I wanna talk a little bit about that. Now this light is, right, 3 inches? 3 inches, Cliff? Where's Cliff? He doesn't know. I'm gonna say it's 3 inches. Nobody can question me because nobody else is here to say. So 3 inches round, right? 3 foot by 4 foot. Does somebody do some math and give me some surface area? How much? 12 square feet. How about this one? Surface area of a circle? Pi r square, right? Right, so pi r square, so yeah, we need pi. Yeah, 3.14. It's funny the things we learned in 5th grade, right? But that was good though, you got that. So this is much larger, right? Much, much larger. All right, so we're gonna do a quick TTL shot, see what it does. Typically, if you're taking a light and pointing it at the camera like Dave is, and you're using TTL, it probably isn't going to do a very good job, although it actually did a pretty decent job. Okay, actually, leave this, yeah, bring it a little closer. So what's interesting about this is, right, that's just the one light, obviously, right? Yeah. Let's leave it for a second, and I'm gonna have you turn slightly, yeah, just your nose. Yeah. So what's interesting here is we've got a couple of things going on, because that's what happens in life when we start moving lights around, right? We get things. This light here coming from the back is hard. I just said that, right? It's definitely a hard light. We can see, look at that texture, right? But look at this. That's soft light on that side of his face. How'd that happen? Well, the light is bouncing off this giant white sheet, creating a soft fill on its own. It's essentially how I used the reflector before, right? It's like a $600 reflector. I mean, you know, which is still a bargain compared to what Seth charges for his. Whoa. A little lens flare going on, I like that, right? We've got this like dramatic, actually we have this like kind of soft flare going on, which is really kind of cool. Very hard light from this side, right? See that detail, see that beard, like he's for the cologne commercial, right? He's been growing that beard for us. And then over here, this is the shadow side, right? That is a shadow side. If there was nothing here, if this was gone, I mean, maybe if we put black there or something so it doesn't bounce off the wall, it would be black on that side, right? But we have a reflector, right? So the reflector is giving a soft light back at him. We can see, oh, Dave wants to do it, because he's yeah, go ahead, if you want to. Want me to hold it? Dave does. Dave's pretty impressive, right? Now we're basically in the dark over here, right? All we have that's lighting his face here now is just the extra flare that's ripping across, right? So we've got the difference here. So we've got this combination of your hard light and your soft light, right? That actually looks really nice here. You have a nice profile. Yeah, now you know that, just in case you didn't know that before.
Do you want to dial that light down?
No, I like it. Yeah, that's okay. So now let's actually do it properly. And when I say properly, the reason why this isn't proper is because using another light when you have it is going to give you more control, right? So basically what we can do here is we can turn this other light on, we can dial down this hair light, because basically if we get the hair light where it's supposed to be, like it's probably like a stop, if not 2 stops overexposed, then the dark side of his face is going to get too dark, right? Because remember, what we care about is the neutral, right? This is our neutral, which is a tiny bit underexposed there, although it kind of works for the shot. If we make the hair light correct, that will be underexposed, and we don't want our neutral to be underexposed. So we're gonna, what are you doing then? Just the hair light first?
Well, yeah, there is a hairlight.
We're gonna adjust the hair light, we're gonna get it where it should be. When you're using multiple lights, you want to get them in place separately and then combine them. That's kind of the key there. Okay, that's better, right? Now we have detail, it's still a hard light. We can see a nice shadow from his ear, right? Look at that detail there, look at the beard, it's looking good, right? But now we can see that his face is underexposed, right? Which we don't really want. Maybe if you were going for a certain mood or like cinematic, yeah, you could do that. Although I'd make it blue. But anyways, when we add, oh, he turned away. When you turn the other light on, the subject turns away. Right? Now we're combining. So now we're getting this plus this, and we want to see our goal here. I think now we got to watch this, because look at how hard that light is. Now look at the shadow from his ear, which is kind of interesting, but also kind of really distracting, no? It's like he's got one of those like headsets on that people used to wear. What do they call those things? The first Bluetooth, you know what I'm talking about? Everyone was walking around, they were on the phone all the time? Yeah. All right.
Hands-free headsets.
Yeah, the hand-free, but they were something that people used to call, there was a name, a brand name that was popular. All right, so. What was it? Viagra? Negra? Viagra. Now we're going to a totally different situation. I just want to say, Mom, that it was Lori up front that said Viagra, not me. All right, so, yeah, this is not working now, right? It looked decent before, but now this is like, so what do we got to do, right? We like this hair light. It looks nice. We're giving ourselves a three-dimensionality. We're going to be able to charge extra for our portrait session because we're using more lights. So maybe we need to soften that light up a bit. We could move it closer. That would make it softer, but it's already pretty close. And, you know, that's not really going to make a difference. I can tell you right now, because this light is 3 inches, right? Brian's head, on the other hand, is more than 3 inches, so it will never be soft. So we need to make this light larger, right? We need to make it softer. How are we going to do that? A softbox. It's right in the name. I know, it's crazy. So the softbox is not going to make it softer because it's diffused. It's going to make it softer because it's bigger, but it will also be diffused. This actually has a bit of silver in the inside, which will add to the specularity, but not a lot. Tiny bit. We're going to move the whole set because that's how we're rolling. All right, I slide that on there. This is the OCF square. The only OCF softbox I don't have. So this one is Cliff's. It says Cliff right on it. Thanks, Cliff. Okay. This is Cliff's favorite box. He loaned it to me. All right, so I just put that box on. Oh.
It's in the shot. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's in the shot.
Good on you.
Okay, yeah, he's good in the exposure there. Dave's freaking me out. All right, good. We're going to work this. We like this, right? We're going to make this happen. This is going to be a good Tinder shot for him. He's going to get lots of dates. He'll probably get married, have good children. Then we'll use them as models. No pressure. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. Questions here? Yes?
I'm just curious as to why the small softbox is pointing straight out, like your feathering is as opposed to directly lighting hairline.
That's a good question. A little better. Still a tiny bit hard. Can we get it closer?
Yep.
We can also change its position if need be, which is the question I'm getting from the audience. So why are we feathering out like this? Well, this basically gives us this like sweep of light where we're getting like the most kind of beautiful edge of it. The edge of your light, or the feather of the light, when you feather your light, you use the edge of it, generally has a nice kind of like, it's given the light time to kind of finesse and get out there and kind of get some flavor. You know, it's like marinated overnight. So it gives you like a little bit of a better light. But also I like to feather my lights off when I'm pointing at things because it gives me more light. Oh.
Little finger sticking in there.
Yeah, there I am pointing. But also, the feathered light gives me a spot, a place that I have all this extra light if I want to kick it back in, right? If I point my light like this, first of all, the direction of it will probably be off, but it depends on what you're going for. We're just going for a bit of a separation. If we wanted like double shoulders, we'd point it towards the middle. But yeah, generally that's how we do it. I know it's weird. I think that when people first learn photography or lighting, when they're looking at diagrams, all the lights are pointed at the subject. But then when you start actually doing it more yourself, you find out that you usually aren't pointing your lights directly at your subject. Like a lot of times you're pointing them off.
They're asking the grid on the rear light would work also.
A grid would also help control the direction of it, yes. But we don't really need that because it'll kill our coverage. But we can also throw this in if we want to give us like kind of a, I'll even do it side, this one goes horizontal, right? Give us a little extra fill there if we want it to be nice and round, again, more boyish. I kind of like it with more shadow. Yeah, we can try pointing it that way. I mean, I'll show you the difference. It just comes down to personal preference. Dave's gonna get mad if I move his light, but if I turn it like this, we might also hit the background here, although I don't think so. It's gonna hit the
The
background?
light is in the background, though.
Yeah. I often put the lights in the shot. That's my style. Yeah, see the difference? Doesn't kind of come around the front as much. You know, it doesn't have that like, that's why we do that.
And if you turn it too much,
And if you turn it too much, then it'll flare the lens.
it's
Yeah.
the background and the other.
Yeah, so, you know, it really depends on the style you're going for, really. Questions about that? That's a good observation, though. Yeah, I hardly ever point my lights at the subject. Cool. Let's switch to hard lights. Let's use the smaller light, and let's use that as our key, and let's play around with that and see what we get, right? Yeah, let's just kill this one for a second, I guess, and we'll move this one to the front. So this is again a B1X.
Kill the A.
Yeah, let's kill the A and let's use the B. This is Cliff's box. So I know now that I'm using a small light, and I know that it's going to throw a lot of shadow. So maybe we'll try to use it to a better effect. Instead of just like putting it to the side and throwing shadow on the side of his face, which could be nice, we'll give it like a little bit of angle, a little bit of flavor, right? Because we like flavor. So maybe we'll do like a kind of overhead, kind of Rembrandt-y, but not fully Rembrandt-y, yes.
The power was different for both the lights, like when you put the softbox and the bigger soft.
Yeah, so the power, right? The power was, we were using TTL, we turned the power down on this one because it was overexposing. Oftentimes a light pointed at the camera will overexpose, especially when you're feathering it like that. So Dave adjusted that slightly. I don't know what the actual settings were. We were kind of eyeballing it. I think that when you're getting, I kind of reverse engineer stuff when I'm shooting tethered and going with the field. There's different thought processes on this. Generally when I'm metering, I'll get my key light down, right? So everything's right. That I'll meter it first and everything. Once I do that, I add the other lights, and based on how they look, and I look at my numbers, I look at my tethering, then that's where they go. If I need to repeat this before the end of the session, I'll write down the settings and I'll meter it. I do both. Why do I do both? Because not every space is the same. And if I just said, oh, this one's at half power, and I go into a totally different space, it might not give me exactly the same look. That'll give me a place to start. So yeah, you want to keep track of your numbers if you're actually going to try to repeat this stuff. It's good to know. Oh, interesting. Okay, harder light, even though it's a softbox. I know it's weird, right? It's a bit more specular. Our catch light is almost gone. Let's bring in even more overhead to get rid of the catch light, since we have some non-catch light people online. Let's get in a little closer and do a little dippy dip. Yeah, and then tilt it down more. Now, keep in mind, fall off, right? It affects your shadow. It also affects your highlight too, and your neutral, meaning that if I bring my light really close to somebody, it falls off really quickly. It's much, much closer to his forehead than it is to his chin, which means he's gonna go into shadow. It also means he's gonna, if I expose properly on his eye area, then his forehead's gonna be overexposed, right? So that's gonna be part of the feel of this. If you don't like that, you gotta mess with your light a little bit to get it in a different spot. But that's basically, you're gonna get that, right? It's just the nature of that kind of lighting, which is kind of a very distinct look. Now we do have this. Now when you're using a reflector, you wanna make sure that you're reflecting the light. So I gotta kind of look at where that light is. I don't even know if that's gonna get in. I'm gonna have to get in really close here.
You're in a bit.
I don't know. Yeah, I see. Okay. Barely. That's barely getting anything. So, what does that tell me? I either have to enjoy the light that's there. Oh, now because you're horizontal. So we can see the difference, although I kind of like it without the reflector. So this goes to show you that even light or more even light isn't always necessarily the right thing, right? Sometimes if you're going for a more extreme angle on the light, sometimes you want to have a bit more contrast to it. But let's just try the silver. I'm gonna try something a little different. My shadow's over here, mostly, so I'm gonna put it over here instead.
That is definitely in. But all gorgeous.
TTL makes people blink. There we go. Okay, so now we're filling in a little bit, and also because this is silver and it's specular. See the specular highlight on his cheek? You didn't believe me earlier. You were like, I don't know, Daniel, you say that's specular, but yeah, see, silver equals specular, which is kind of cool, right? It has a different feel to it. You know, has a little bit more kind of a real feel. If I was lighting somebody in a scene, this feels like light that could be there. Because most light sources, right, in the world that we're looking at are pretty hard, right? Like these lights aren't that large and they're pretty far away from me. So it says hard light on me. The lights in the ceiling are going to be hard for the most part. The only light that's not hard that you ever encounter, bathroom mirrors. They are so nice, right? You ever been to like a fancy bathroom and like the light's behind the mirror? It's the nicest light ever. Why? It's bouncing off the wall and the entire wall is the light source. That's soft light, right? That way you buy that makeup or whatever. You know, that's a bathroom mirrors, you always look great. Nice bathroom mirrors, not junky ones. All right, questions about that, about bathrooms?
See, New York is obsessed over nice bathrooms.
Yes, New Yorkers are obsessed over nice bathrooms. We had this conversation.
These are great bathrooms.
But that's the thing, right? You get the light, it bounces around, makes it nice and even on the face.
Want to do the soft hair light?
Yeah, let's do a soft hair light. Yeah, let's do it.
Swapping.
Yeah, we're gonna swap them out. I like it. Good job, Brian. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Anecdotes? By the way, this is the shallow box. I love the shallow box. It's shallow. So normally a softbox that's this big would be, you know, like another foot or so deeper. This allows you to get into tighter areas. And you can show off, like when your other photographers are around, you set up your box and you're like, mine's shallow.
They're asking what's this shallow?
What makes it shallow?
Like what does shallow do?
Okay, so the advantage of, or disadvantage of shallow is that, number one, it's physically smaller, which means you can get it in tighter spaces, which is probably the primary reason why a lot of people use it. But also, depending on the head that you put in it, you will get, especially if you remove the internal baffle, you'll get a bit more of a hot spot in the center. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's definitely there. So a lot of people like that for portraiture, because if you point the center of the light at people, you get like a little bit, like 2/10 brighter in the center, and then it fades off. So it actually gives that little extra pop for a portrait. Actually, if you get plume, you guys ever heard of plume?
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's like Shamira, the company Shamira, with the guy that started Plume, they created the softbox, right? They were the people who made it. This guy left and now he makes them in his basement. But anyways, they're hard to get, but Plume actually sells different fronts that have like diffusion that actually fades off for portraits, which is really nice.
Sick.
Yeah, and they have really nice speed ring. So Plume is a really nice softbox if you want to actually really show off. Oh, look at you with the soft separation light. Now we've got this soft light from the back. Interestingly enough, a little bit cool looking. Two different brands. Look at that.
So you're recommending shallow boxes for small studio space?
Am I recommending shallow boxes? Yes, always. I love shallow boxes. I live for it. Actually, Datolight has this really shallow. For a small studio space, yes. Or a big one.
The Panora?
Yeah, the Panora. Oh, so shallow. Shallow boxes are great because they take up less space. Anything that takes up less space is going to be good for you. And with two pieces of diffusion on the front, you're not going to see that it's uneven, so that won't be an issue for you. This is kind of nice. We're using a hard light, right? We're creating, now we're using the harder light, we're using it closer. So it's still not hard. Thank you. Well, I'm going to show something. It's still relatively soft. I mean, but we can see the nice detail. Look at his lips. They're all kissable. Well, we're making a Tinder profile picture. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, yeah.
Bouncing off the
Right, so now we have the giant fill on the back. We can actually use this for our the hair light. We can use this for our fill. And there we go. See? He's like, what? I think I like the shadows. What I would say is let's move the light back some. Let's make it even harder.
This one?
Yeah.
And up?
Yeah, let's go hard. Let's go up and back.
The catch lights or?
Yeah, let's kill the catch lights and let's go up and back. Yeah, so we can basically, we're going to make it really hard. We're making it hard because we're making it smaller. Making it smaller by moving it further away. The further something is away from you, the smaller it is relative to you. right? If a car is going away in the distance, you know, it gets smaller until it goes over the curve of the Earth. Then it disappears at 4 miles away. Or maybe it's 5 miles. We'll look that up. Somebody let me know. All right. We're going for it. I don't think it's aimed at him enough, but
Watch the projectors.
we're good. It might not be quite aimed at him perfectly.
Hey, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, let's see what it does.
Let's just say we're doing it.
Honestly, if you make all that effort to put a light up, you may as well take a frame. Because what if it's perfect? You might discover something that, because we're hitting him with the feather of the light.
Like right in the lens in the top corner.
Yeah, we don't mess around here. We put lights where we want, you know. So we're trying to make this light hard. We want crisp. We want hard. Well, we want a proper exposure too. Are we manual? Or it just doesn't have enough juice?
Well, we'll see. We'll drop it down.
All right.
Readjust. I'll point it more at him.
Yeah, we're going to have to point it at him. I think we're just not getting enough because it's bouncing off the floor. He's very disappointed in that right now. He's thinking, no, this is... Yeah, you got enough juice, but I don't...
Where's the Hasselblad?
Where's the Hasselblad? Hopefully soon. Dan. Yeah, the Hasselblad's coming back. I mean, the Canon's fine.
They're asking what you're using now.
What am I using now? B2? D2? Oh, this is a 1DX Mark II. I don't know. I've had this thing for like a year, and I can't remember what it's called. This is the Canon. It's actually a really nice camera. If you guys you shoot Canon or not, I mean, has a fast mode to drive and everything. Takes a lot of pictures. Good autofocus. It looks cool. The best part about this camera, though, this particular camera, is the battery. It lasts forever. So there you go. That's my sales pitch for the 1DX Mark II. I'll finally figure out what the name of the camera is, and I'll get rid of it. We're going to TTL. We're going to TTL, Cliff. Oh, there you go. All right. We've moved our light further back and up to make it harder, right? So we've got now, hold on, before you do anything, Dave, let's just take a quick look at something. I'm going to be self-referential. Granted, the exposure is not the same, but let's take a peek at this and this, right? Now, granted, this is a bit harder, which is the direct head, but this is getting there. I mean, look at that shadow transition, right? So we're creating this like kind of hard light using a softbox, right? Even though right in the name, it says soft. It's crazy. All right, let's do. We got it. Now, in theory, not in practice because we can't do it here, we don't have space, we could do the same thing with this light. If I took this light with this large softbox and I backed it up far enough, it would eventually be just as hard as that. It comes down to, oh yeah, look at that. Oh. I don't know how I did that. Oh, this is what I do. There you go. All right. So now we've got this hard light, right? It's got a lot of oomph to it. I think we need a fill though for that. Let's try to fill it with our silver. Now I have all kinds of, I can put it anywhere. That's distracting because it doesn't really do anything. This is doing nothing. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it actually hit him. I was just messing with him when he took the picture. All right, so here we go. Okay. There we go. So I spent years as a photo assistant. If I can do anything, I can hold a reflector. So now we've got a hard-ish light. It's kind of specular, right? We got some fill going on there. And it kind of has it like this looks like, and it doesn't really look like, because there's two lights going on. It looks almost like sunlight, right? Like the way the light's hitting him, how it's kind of like punchy, right? And we can see detail, right? If we had a beach scene behind him or something, you know, this would look pretty decent. Now, the sun doesn't look like this. The sun looks terrible, right? If you were standing out in the bright sun, you'd have really hard light. It would be absolutely terrible. This is a way to have that kind of punchiness without, without completely losing it. And by the way, this is just a beautiful transition right there, Dave. Well done. Like look at that. Like that tonality to that tonality is like perfect. So it's almost not super noticeable. There's a second light unless you're kind of really looking at it. You see all the light on the skin, the transitions are really smooth. And you can see a little reflector. What's that called, Seth? That little shine thingy inside the eye?
Catchlight?
No, that thing.
What thing? The water line?
The water line. You can see the water line. I'm stealing your thing, because Seth says all the time, you can see the water line.
Every time you do a demo.
I do,
pretty
one by
soon you're
one.
just gonna be a
There'll be
full
nothing left. You'll be a hollow shell.
Recommendation for a speedlight softbox.
Speedlight softbox, something small.
Jesus.
No, so if you're using speedlights and you want to get a softbox, honestly, it really depends on your goals. This is what I'll say. If you're just going to be a speedlight person, like that's your deal. Like, I like speedlights, that's what I'm going to do. Get yourself like an easy box, like a Joe McNally easy box. I really love that one. It's like a 2-footer. Really though, if you have you're starting out and you don't know what you're going to do, I would buy a regular softbox for a strobe. It's going to be more expensive, but buy it, shove your speedlight in it, make it work. Then when you buy a strobe, you'll have it, right? I could buy that, right? That'll easily take a speedlight. In fact, back in the day, and I only heard stories about this because I'm very young, I don't know this. There were no speedlight softboxes. They were literally just softboxes, and you would just stick your speedlight in there. So don't feel like you have to buy a specialized softbox for a speedlight. You could buy an actual, like Photoflex is a pretty inexpensive, they're like mid-range kind of decent, if you're looking for something less expensive, because maybe you're just starting, maybe you're not just starting, I don't know. Yeah, they make brackets for speed rings. But if you have the cash and you're ready to do it, I always recommend, Cliff's not there, right? But Shimera, they make the best softboxes, hands down, no question. Get yourself a Shimera extra small, you'll have that thing forever. And then just, what I used to do, I took a piece of cardboard and cut a hole and stuck it in the speed ring and stuck my speed light through it and had somebody hold it, and that's how I did it. That's how we do it, you know. But you can buy the bracket if you want, you know. I won't stop you. Anyways, questions?
So size
Uh-oh.
determines the softness. If you had the say an umbrella and you were doing shoot through versus
Right.
bounce.
Okay.
Because the size is the same, it's technically the same harness. But
Is it the same? So here's the question. Let's say I'm using an umbrella, shoot through versus bounce. What's the difference? They're the same size. Are they though? Are they though?
radius,
Size relative to your subject. If I'm shooting through my umbrella, right, here's my umbrella. I'm bouncing. I'm shooting through. What just happened there? It got closer, which means it's bigger, right? Closer equals bigger, bigger equals softer. Now, yes, if you backed it up to the same spot, it would be the same. But yeah, that's one advantage of a shooting through. Because the problem with a bounce umbrella is that you can only get so close before the little thing pokes them in the eye. And they usually don't like that. You can take them off on some of them.
There's a discussion of loving your t-shirt.
Ah, yes, this t-shirt apparently is used for summoning of demons. I did not know that. So if any demons are summoned by mistake, I apologize. Okay, so it had a goat on it. I think it was cute. I claim ignorance. Anyways. All right, so that's both hard and soft. Did we do both already? Jeez, we got nothing to do now. Let me tell you guys a story. Now let's do one more thing. Let's do something really weird. Let's take the softbox and let's put it over top of his head.
Okay.
We're gonna take a really soft light and create shadows with it. But there'll be soft shadows.
And then we'll bounce them up.
Yeah, and then we'll just bounce it back up. Why not? It's always good. Like, by the way, since there's equipment questions, I'll start to give some recommendations because I feel like it, which I don't always do. So, yeah, I love Shimera softboxes. Photoflex is decent, but this is if you're going to do a lot of fashion and portraits and you got space, only space for one light, then this is a decent size. This is 3x4. Usually, I recommend people buy a 2x3 if you're just doing portraits. You can do portraits with either one. The 2x3 is better for boom. The 3x4 is going to be better for boom. So size-wise, those are probably your recommended. The smaller ones are good if you don't have a powerful light or you need extra lights. You can almost always make your light smaller by blocking parts of it. You can't really make it bigger without bouncing it, and then you lose control. So for instance, if I wanted to make this smaller, I could take a piece of black foam core, cut a hole in it, and put it in front and make a mask, right? Yeah, I'm wasting a lot of light, but I could make it smaller physically. Can't really make the other one bigger without putting something, it's going to lose my control. Cool. You're out of control, man. Seth's throwing sandbags around. I think periodically somebody goes into our studio and moves the sandbags. They're in a different spot now. Did you do it? Oh. Yeah.
Every day there's a different one leaking.
Yes, well, there's definitely lots of leaking sandbags. And there's that one that has rocks in it for some reason. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Anyways, sandbags. Always put a sandbag on your light if you're going to fly it over somebody's head or otherwise. Safety first. Oh, and by the way, as Dave's demonstrating, this is a 650 pin. Let's show this thing again. Where's my camera? This is the thing that you use to put a light on a C-stand. Okay, make sure that you do it right. If I come on your set and I see you're not doing it right, I'm going to knock your light over. And by the way, if your light flips upside down, you can go like that. It'll never fall through. Okay. The reason why you do this, though, look at this. When my light's on here, I'll do it with this one, so I'm not throwing Dave off. If your light's on here, let's talk a little science for a second while Dave's doing this. So if I have a C-stand here, and I do what I see people do all the time, which I just want to, I'm going to do it. Can you see it or no? Okay. I see people put lights here. What's the problem with that, right? There's nothing there to hook the light onto. You see the 650 pin. See the difference? It's got the little doodad. And you can see clearly it's torn up because when the light's on there, it's twisting and fighting to try to fall because lights always want to hit the ground, right? That's like a known fact of lights. They love to hit the ground. So when you use a 650 pin, so I just hit myself in the face with the light. All right, so when I use this, I can put my light on like this, right? Now my light is not trying to twist, right? It's sitting straight up. See the difference? That's why we do that. Whenever I'm running a studio and I call them and I'm like, I need some C-stands and I'll get some 650 pins with them and they ask me, what's that? I don't use that studio. Yeah. It's like, how do you not know what that is? All right, there we go. That's me criticizing people, sorry. I'm back. Questions? Are we up? Oh yeah, see, perfect. That was perfect timing. We are the masters of the segue. Oh, this is kind of fun.
It's like a.
So this is nice and big. You can do this. Oh. It's going to rain light upon him. We can put on the modeling light.
Do it.
With magic.
Do it.
Yeah, this one's plugged in. All right, so we're going to put him under this light. The light is huge, right? But because it's so close to him, we're going to have a dramatic fall off. So the top of his head is going to be considerably brighter than the bottom. You turn the wrong one on? Yeah, I always do that.
There we go.
All right, so this is going to look nuts. Oh, I'm stealing something else from Seth. Ready? It's going to be bananas. I took it. It's mine now. Once I claim it,
Start doing your demos. You know that?
you could do it. Probably better.
Daniel's gonna rename
Okay.
himself.
I'm changing myself. Okay, overhead light, which typically is not how you want to light somebody, but really soft, right? So hold on, you're taking two things. You're like, whoa, no, use soft light, but don't use overhead light. Now you're putting them together. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see if we can make this work for us. I think we can. What do you think? Ryan's down. What's going to happen? The top of his head's going to be really bright, right? We know that. That's about where we're at. We don't know the rest of it. We know that. There you go. Top of his head is really bright, just like I said. So, here we go. We got no catch light, really. We got this going on. But what do I have here? I have all this space, right? All this beautiful light that I can bounce back up. Even more, because Dave's going to do that. Dave's getting ahead of it. See how he went ahead of it? We're supposed to make this work. We have to milk this. All right, hold on. Dave's making it better already. Damn it.
You steal my terms, he shoots for you. What do you do?
I don't do anything. I just hang out. My job is more of like a facilitator. There you go. Better. All right. So now it's moody, right? I'm going to take my reflector, like this. Now, I have all the light in the world to work with here. Like, look at all this light. Oh, oh. Oh, or he put his chin up. That's the other way to do it. Fine. That's a good way to get me out of the job. This is a union shop. Get me back in. All right. Right? Boom. Now he's got something going on, right? We have this kind of interesting pattern in the eye, right? It doesn't have that. I mean, the reflector's obviously catching. I could put the reflector lower, but why would I do that? See how it's got a different feel to it? It's a little bit more interesting. It's still very soft. It's very boyish. You look very boyish.
Exposure a tiny bit too.
Silver.
Nice.
And there we go.
Did you lower the power?
I did
Dave lowered the power a little bit. I added the silver, and we got a nice,
Background looks nice.
look at that texture in the skin. No water line, though. And as Seth pointed out, the background is basically black. Why? Because there's no real light hitting it, right? We're getting a little bit of light bouncing off the ground. That's how we're getting this like gradation a bit coming up the wall. If we really wanted to get fancy, we could probably like throw like white down there and kick some light up, but I'm not gonna do that. All right, that's pretty cool. Should we add another light? Maybe separation light? I think it's perfect. It's almost too good. Let's do something. Let's take the small light, the hard light source, and let's bring it in real close right here and side light him as our key and turn this one down 2 stops.
Okay.
That's the plan. Because now we're going to start playing with the concept of what do we do with this knowledge now that we have it? I always say, I just do stuff.
I'm just gonna see what the exposure is.
Yeah, let's just see what it is.
I'm not sure. I'm on manual.
We're in manual. We're just going to go for it. I'm going to guess overexposed, I should say. Because it's pretty close. Yeah, yep.
A little bit over.
That's a little bit over.
You missed your eyeball.
Don't worry, I'm shooting with the Sony. I can fix it in post.
Oh.
But not with this camera. No, not with this camera, I can't. There's no way that's coming back.
Probably what, 2 stops, right?
Yeah, about 2 stops. Maybe leave it a little more. I'm just saying they have a lot of dynamic range. So much. You have a Sony, right? It's crazy. No. You do. All right, we're gonna, this'll turn into something, I swear. There we go. All right, that's our side light. Is that only the side light or is that both? Perfect. That's actually easier than I thought. And now, let's do this. Interesting. Oh, actually, let me come here with it. Yeah. Raise the top 1/3. What I'm trying to do is create kind of a devious, so go devious, like maybe do an eyebrow. Can you do just one eyebrow? I can't do either eyebrow, so yeah, there we go, nothing there.
Boyish.
There we go. Right? So now what I've done here, so here's the thing, right? When you go back to this, right, which is kind of interesting, you know, it's kind of boyish. But here, we're using our knowledge of hard and soft, right, to shape the light, right? And see how the light, now, and again, this is not perfect light. This is a character light, right? It's those, some people are looking at this at home probably, maybe even people here, maybe even Seth, who knows? Definitely not Seth. And he's looking at this, well, I know, well, let's tell you, and they're going, Daniel, you can see these bags, I'm gonna go and frequently separate that. No, like the whole point of this is I'm using the light to create this mood, right? Not every shot has to be perfectly clean. If you want perfectly clean, we have that over here. All of that can be achieved with your lighting, right? We had no bags at the beginning. I'm not gonna find it now, but you know what I'm talking about. This is a character light, right? He's kind of devious, and here he's boyish. Right, we see the difference? Maybe he's a devious boy. Like Clockwork Orange. Oh.
A devious boy.
Okay. Very nice, Dave. Good. There we go. Right, you see how that little specularity adds to it? Both are nice. Classic. Ah, my pinch skill. Devious, right? It's about texture, right? We have specularity on one side, no specularity on the other. We've got brightness, we've got darkness, we get a whole mix, you know? And I think mixing your light together is going to help you create a lot more interesting stuff. Questions? No. Answers? No? Okay, no answer for me. I've been looking for the answers for a long time.
42.
42 is the answer. All right, let's do one more shot with only hard light. Let's just do bare heads. Let's say like you spend all your allowance on your pro photo lights because they're on sale, and you can't afford any modifiers. Like I can't afford any modifiers. They used to give you a softbox with the light. Now they're giving you a controller, which is worth a lot more money. So let's take away our softboxes. Let's make a shot with just the heads. Because why not, right? All right. Let's see. I think we're going to go, yeah. Let's go like this. Let me figure this out.
You want to do the hard double rim?
Oh, yes, let's do that. Thank you, Dave. I've been doing this with Dave so long, we have a repertoire. Let's do number 42. By the way, I believe this price is incorrect. Unless this is the 1,000. Oh, it is a 1,000, that's why, okay.
It's warm in there.
It is warm in there. The D2s have a actual tungsten modeling light, so they're a bit on the warm side. We're going like this, right at the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we're 1,000 and 500, but
Right, well, that's okay, we'll balance
make it
them.
work.
Yeah. Actually, you're at 2.6, and so this one's at 4.7. So I'm gonna make this one 3.7, which should theoretically be the same. In theory, because each one is a stop. And then he's gonna be like what, like this?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. We are gonna blast the light from the back, flare the lens, ruin our sensor, and all for you. That's what we do around here. Questions? No. People are like, what is he doing? Are you wondering what I'm doing?
Does TTL assume that you're aiming directly on and not feathering? Because
Yeah, exactly. TTL's always, well, yeah. TTL's using your metering system, which is always assuming that you have even light on your subject. So if you backlight something, it's going to throw off the TTL almost always. So yeah, you can use spot metering, which will help with that. Oh yeah, perfect. There we go. So now, boy, that was actually pretty even.
yeah,
I did a pretty good job with that.
pretty close. I think we're slightly.
Is that gonna get any of that light, any of that juicy light?
Here, let me turn on the.
Yeah, modeling lights. The problem is they might have to come up a little bit to catch this, but we'll see. It looks so good though. Look at your face. It's like,
There it is. Okay.
oh yeah.
That's what we want, right there. Up a little bit. Okay.
Interesting. Wow. Definitely not boyish. It's a smidge underexposed, but I kind of like it. So, yeah, let's just,
What we can do.
yep, feather them more.
Yeah.
What's that?
You might actually get some bounce with the projections.
It could be, yeah.
That flare on the right.
I don't know though, it wasn't in the first shot. So I think it's his camera position. Cool, all right. We're feathering. Birds of a feather, feather, flock, feather, what? Joe, we don't have two of these. Do we have two of these silvers?
I have a smaller silver.
Could I borrow that, please, good sir? This is pretty intense.
You know, why not? 'Cause we got space.
Now, with a third light, we could bring up his center, right, without messing with the backs. No? Yes, perfect.
You want to go from the sides or?
No, I'm gonna do this, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Just want to see if I can get a little more light in there. Yeah, not much. Yes. Questions? Did I hear somebody call my name? Say my name.
a fixed source light. This one is it's acting as a flashlight. So but the light on both sides is quite even. So.
Indeed. Okay, so question, because I think there's some confusion. We just have this modeling light on so we can see it. We just don't have this one turned on. The modeling light is not affecting the shot. That's just so, yeah, we can turn it on if we want. If that makes you feel better. It just eats the battery, so. There you go. There you go. We just didn't have the modeling light turned on. They're both flashing. They're both set to the same exposure. Because one of them was set on one number, and I just set the same number and put them the same distance apart, right? We're in manual, right?
Try
Like over here.
opposite light.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay, that's one.
Frame it real quick.
Hold on, this might be too good. All right, we'll do it. We don't want to give Brian too good of shots. You know, we got some level of expectation here. They've got the bigger one.
When he's trying to solo power this poor
Yep. We might be in the shop too, but
There you go. Dave's is slightly larger, but yeah, there we go, right? Nice. Cliff. There you go. So now we're just blasting the light from the back, right? And indeed, it's a smidge blown out here, but still within the range of goodness. Here, same thing, you know? We got lots of specularity from the silver.
that weird catch light.
It's got awesome catch light that the person who didn't like catches. It's like perfectly even because his face is very symmetrical and not boyish at all. And there you go. All right, questions. Is this hard light or soft light? Who knows? Yes, what's the question? Question? No?
I'll tell you what freaks me out about
Uh-oh.
using flash.
Okay, tell me.
I never know what I'm going to get
Yeah.
before I get it.
It's like a box of chocolate.
You're going to get before you get it. So
Yeah.
what do you do? Just keep shooting, right?
No. So the question is, flash is like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. But indeed, the inside of the cover does tell you that. Sure, we know what we're going to get because we have two things going on, right? One is modeling lights if we need them, which is what we turned on so you can aim them, correct? So we know where the light's going to fall. And exposure-wise, we could light meter it. And then we'll know exactly what it's going to look like. Just like anything, it comes down to a little bit of practice because the reality is this. If I say, always set your hair light to one stop overexposed, right? Because people used to tell you that in photo books. But what if the person has oily skin? What if it's somebody with dark hair? What if they have white hair? What if they're bald? What if they have dark skin? What's about the texture of their skin? What if they have a beard? All that matters, right? That comes down to practice, right? So on some sense, yeah, when somebody sits down the first time and I'm not sure, should I set my hair light this way or that way? I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like without having to take a shot to do it. But yeah, that's the beauty of being tethered though, right? So I can shoot and I can be like, oh no, you know what? You know, he's a little more oily than I thought. Let me, you know, adjust that for it or whatever, you know, or their hair is more blonde. Or if you check out the women versus men that we did last week, like for instance, I had her move her hair because the light was too hard on her face. Like these are things that you learn over time. We don't usually run the modeling lights because I use a lot of battery powered lights, so I'm trying not to kill the batteries, but also because we're lit in here, you can't really see it that well. But if we were in a darkened studio, you would be able to see pretty well what it looks like. And it comes down, a lot of it's practice, but I would definitely use a light meter. I mean, we're essentially using a meter because we're using TTL, right? I normally use a light meter and yeah, that's how you do it. But some people, like Seth does a lot of stuff with speed lights, which do not have modeling lights, and yeah, you get used to it. You're like, okay, you know, half power. You get a feel for it. Take practice. But yeah, I think the idea of like, you have to have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like. I mean, we're experimenting. That's why I said this is position number 42 when Dave said that. We've done this before. I mean, we knew that it was going to look like this. We didn't have silver cards last time, though. The silver cards added a little extra to it, but I kind of know what silver cards do, right? Thank you, Seth. You know, I know what silver cards do because I know they're specular and we've been using them. So that was the kind of the thing I didn't know, but I had a pretty good idea. And I knew the distance, right? We knew it was too dark, so Dave moved it in closer because he knows that when you move it closer, it gets brighter and also softer. So, you know, these are things that you put to practice as you go. But yeah, I mean, yeah. I wouldn't claim that I could immediately like not make a picture. I could just photograph you without looking at all and know exactly the exposure, but I got pretty close without looking. because I've done this a lot. Right here on this. Yeah, I mean, this room I know really well because we're here a lot. But I can tell you what, I'll tell you a story. So I used to shoot in this small studio on 36th Street, and I had my lights, and I knew exactly how they'd be and whatever. I used to shoot there all the time. And then a client called me to do these headshots that I'd done at the studio a bunch of times to do them in their office, and I knew how I did it. Like I told you, I like had my f-stops written down, I had whatever. So I show up in their office, I set the whole thing up. I didn't even do a test Polaroid because it was back in the days of film, because I knew that's right. Shot the first one, didn't look the same. Why? Their walls were different than mine, and it was changing the way the light was. It was like, oh wow, so actually that's not the right exposure, and I had to quickly adjust. I just whipped my meter out and just remetered stuff. But the reality is that because things were reflecting, it looked different. So when you're in different spaces, it will change, but that comes with experience. Other questions or thoughts, comments? Did you want to finish what you were talking about when we started? No. Okay. Anybody online? Cool. All right. So we're chill. So we're actually pretty good. It's 6:15. We're going to wrap. I think I'm back next week for something. Yeah, I'm back next week. All of May I'm here, I think, which is pretty awesome. Do you know what it is? Should we look? I will be here next week doing something.
Oh wait, it's right there.
It's something. Can somebody read it?
Bottom left, bottom right.
Bottom right.
Flash versus constant.
Oh,
There you go.
there we go. I just gave it all away now. Next week we're doing flash versus a constant light source. The advantages, how you use them differently, and we'll probably combine them because that's the kind of thing that we do. And Monday, Seth is here. He's doing mixed lights. So Seth's going to basically, whatever different types of lights, tungsten, fluorescent, LEDs, flash, whatever he's got around, he's going to mix to create some different some lighting scenarios. Should be really fun. It's always a good one. I came to the last one. I won't be this one, unfortunately. Also, if you guys don't know, every Monday Seth's on Adorama's Instagram. Check that out. That's always fun. My show is usually on Mondays, although it might change. It's going to be on Tuesdays starting on Adorama TV. It's called OnSet. You can check that out. Check out my channel if you guys want more stuff. Oh, and there's a critique on the 22nd. Cool. So my channel is Daniel Norton Photographer. You can just find me on YouTube, whatever. You can see more stuff like this. Yeah, critique if you guys haven't been to it. Submit photos. Go to adorama.com/events. It tells you how to do it. We, myself, and Seth will give you a hard time about your photos. What?
Me, myself, and Seth.
Me, myself, and Seth. We'll critique your images and give you advice and
We'll say they all look boyish.
a pat on the back. We'll use terms like boyish and roguish and things like that. We'll steal Cliff's softboxes. But no, it's really fun. So several people have done the critique before, and they haven't run in fear. What? That one is on the 22nd of May. Seth's birthday. But it's not Seth's birthday. I shouldn't have said that. It's Dave's birthday. It's somebody's birthday. It's always a birthday when we do the critique. Yes, that's right. Seth just had a birthday, so now he's an old man. So yeah, check out all the stuff we do. If you guys have questions, you can always send me a message or something. All of May, I'm going to be here every Thursday. Then I'm going back to that every other Thursday thing. So I'll be here a bunch. So if you guys have questions for me, you can always address me then.
Critiquing studio photos that you critique, or just any photos?
Send any photo you like, as long as you're willing to have it critiqued.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a studio photo. In fact, most people don't send studio photos. Cool. Other questions? Awesome. Thanks, guys. Oh, the ProPhoto B1X, sorry, is if you buy one, you get a free controller. Cliff's right there if you want to know about ProPhoto. I just want to give them a hard time. And thanks, guys. All right, good. Sorry, I did a false